Now I've covered a little bit the landscape of M&A. Let me spend some time on highlighting what investors are really truly looking for, be it strategic or financial. Again, there are two options. They look for strong businesses. They're not interested in distressed companies. They're not interested in just break-even companies. They don't have time to fix the company and move on. They're looking for companies that have within themselves high potential, and they want to bring their energy, their funds to unleash that and create new value. They're also looking for minimum scale, maturity. They're not so interested in very young organization. They want companies that already have some volumes, that have established trade lanes. They want companies that have organizational skills, that means IT, clear legal structures. You want to have all your branches operating on the same IT system. If you're above 50 crores of revenue, you want to consider investing in an ERP, the light version, to create dialogue between your operating information and your financial information. They're also looking for reputation and obviously some governance. So if you've been on the market for long, this talks to you, this talks for you. And they're looking for geographical reach. That means you shouldn't be too local. Someone who wants, a strategic player who wants to enter the Indian market, wants to tap into the 7 large metros at once. So strong businesses. The second important thing for an investor, or foreign investor, is scale. As I said, they want to unleash growth. So you shouldn't go to them and say, well, we need working capital. This is not speaking to them. You should go to them and explain, we have very aggressive growth plans. We want to transition our company. We're now focused on ocean freight. We want to move to air freight. We want to get into warehousing. We want to get into new line of businesses. Or we're very strong in 3 regions of India. We need to be strong in 6 of them. We want geographical expansion. There are all types of models available here, but I think you need to demonstrate that the contribution you're looking for is to scale up the business. And I think there are today a lot of scenarios possible. Third important thing that an investor is looking for is sustainability. And during the due diligence, they will look for that. Sustainability is assessed through the quality of earnings, the quality of the service, and the quality of the management primarily. Earnings means earnings shouldn't be related to a relationship that you have with 3 large customers and the personal relationship you have with the head of logistics of these companies. It should be because you have a good quality of service. And if the head of logistics leaves, the business will stay. The distribution of the customer base should be such that if 1 or 2 large ones leave, business is still there. Also, the quality of service will be important. And that will be assessed in terms of KPIs, in terms of written processes, in terms of certification. I see a lot of you are already certified, ISO or others. This is a good thing for an investor. And thirdly, but probably as the main attribute, they will look at the quality of the management. And let me tell you that they would look very favorably to a team as opposed to just one owner controlling tightly his business but concentrating all the powers of the company. What happens if that owner gets sick or leaves or changes minds? Teams are more loyal, are more steady, are more sustainable. Finally, this is the last point I want to stress, and this is a very important point. Financial investors will look for exit. So you shouldn't fool yourself. If you are going for a private equity fund or VC fund or even an angel investor, these guys want to get out. And there aren't that many ways to get out. Either the promoters buy back, either the shares are sold to a third party, or there is an IPO. Let me tell you, buying back from an investor is expensive, and IPO is extremely difficult to happen. So you're left with the option, which is basically selling the shares of the investor to a third party, probably a strategic investor. And the strategic investor will want control. So there are chances that actually the entire company will got sold. If you are going for a financial player, you must be ready to actually exit your business after a period of time. And I see that promoters aren't always very clear about that. They're happy to get the funding from the private equity investor, and they say, well, we'll see in 3-4 years what happened. Well, I think you've got to be ready for this scenario and very clear for this. Now, if there is a strategic investment going on, it won't be about exits. Anyway, the strategic investor will look for control. It will be about synergies. It will be about creating synergies on the costs and synergies on the revenue side. Now, be very clear, how is this going to be done? How much control am I going to lose in this process? What kind of ideas is the strategic partner coming up with? So these are the main things that strategic investors, foreign investors, financial investors are looking for. Now, very often, because of all these requirements on the side of investors, things fail. And these are the reasons why: value discrepancies, unrealistic valuations, no willingness to accept dilution or sale on the side of the promoters, lack of transparency. You know, if you host someone in the company for a long term, you need to be very clear about the dead bodies in the cabinets. You got to open up front. It will come out anyway. You should do it early. So, on the other side, what the freight forwarders are entitled to expect, and we must be very clear about what am I getting. It's access to funds, new clients, input on vision and strategy, M&A expertise, global networks, know-how, such things. Now, what is best for you? I saw there were about probably 50 hands up of people here considering, partnering with a foreign investor. Question becomes, should you go for a strategic one, a financial one, whether it should be a minority stake that you give up or a majority stake? There's no right or wrong here. I mean, you need to assess who is your partner. Again, those kind of strategies and tie-ups, equity tie-ups, they're like a wedding. They're like, engaging into a lifelong relationship. So my advice to you is take time. Assess properly your partners, make sure you have the same set of values, and hopefully things will work out well. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. I think it's very important to understand from the investor's perspective what they are looking for. I think he summarized, he's given several points, well, I'm not repeating it, but I think whoever raised these 50 hands in this room a few minutes before need to go through this exactly. They are really ready. Two critical points is about whether we are looking for the strategic investor or the financial investor. I think that is a very, very critical question. Because when we are doing business, especially from the first, second generation of entrepreneur spirit, is not about the revenue and the gross profit. It's about a lot of emotions. We are very possessive about what we are built from the scratch. And then somebody come from, as an investor, specifically as a financial investor, Charles use the word wedding. But to be frank, this wedding is designed to get divorced. Because that is the value which investor will looking for, and that range from 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, depending upon the time he see a value to unleash. So it is a very critical point for the family-run business is to really understand what they want to do with this business, because it is the same objective they have when somebody first generation started, how to take it for the next level, whether we have keen interest in developing further. So, and then if yes, how to go about the major or minority stake in the business. But then more about the family is about how to ensure the growth of this family business, how to get a sustainability of this family business, because one point may come that require the funds and you should be ready for that. I think we have an expert here, the Sandesh Mistry. He is the director for MBMC Consulting. He is in the active alumnus of the SPGN Institute of Management and rich experience of 24 years. And most important is that 13 years consulting is mainly for the family businesses and the specialization in how to build the sustainable growth for the family businesses. So Sandesh, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. And thank you, Vipul and Charles, because you have finished your presentation in time. I have a lot of time. And also we can eat in time. Okay, the subject is Go Fly High. When Shantanu called me to invite me as a speaker for this forum, he wanted somebody who can tell you all about wealth management. I said, that is not my subject. I can tell you about how transition can happen in family and business when the new players come in, new generation come in, how do we need to manage the business? And second is, how do we manage profitable growth? Because that is something which I find many of the small entrepreneurs and medium-sized entrepreneurs are finding it very difficult to do. And in the meantime, I had sent him our book. We have written a book called Go Fly High. And I think some of the other members, they browsed through the book, which has caricatures and everything, and they said, no, we want this. Can you talk on Go Fly High? So I said, I'll make an effort, and here it is, Go Fly High. I am going to tell you a story. This is not a technical presentation. But I think you will enjoy this story. And this story is of a hero called Rajan. Now, Rajan is a person who has started his own business from scratch and has grown it to around 25 crores. And his mentor and his childhood friend called Manu. Manu is a friend who meets Rajan after almost 15 to 18 years. And he sees that the growth Rajan has done. He's very happy about it. And when he's talking to him, he finds something which is missing. He does not find Rajan to be enthusiastic about the growth that he has done, and there is some missing element. So how the story unfolds? Rajan built his business from scratch. He is intelligent. He is an engineer by background. He understands the market, he tries to seize through the market, and he develops product and services which is the right gap, and he knows whom to sell. Above all, he also had another ability, which is making right promises to right customers. I think this is something which all entrepreneurs possess this quality, is making right promises to right customers. He walks an extra mile when he starts the business. He tries to get the right clients. He tries to deliver in time, and his business starts growing. He was in total control of his business when he started the business. Then what happens? With his efforts, vision, dreams, dedication, Rajan's business starts growing. Very, very simple story which happens in most of our lives. We have seen this happen. As business grew, he has employees, not able to deal with customers directly because now the business is growing. He is unable to make the promises to customers, and he is unable to meet his customers directly and talk to them. In effect, what happens is wrong promises were made to customers. Promises of delivery, promises of service, which are wrong, because the customers also sometimes are wrong, which are not the ones who can value his service, resulting to unsatisfied customers. And what happens to Rajan? He becomes the problem solver. Because now all the customer calls are coming to his desk and customers are complaining, and he sees that the natural reaction to all these things is that I have to solve these problems. So Rajan, day in, day out, he's coming to office and solving all the problems of the day. He starts his day with 10 problems. Finishes the day with 7 problems solved, carried forward 3 problems. Next day again, carried forward opening balance of 3 problems, again 10 problems. Day in, day out, he's doing the same thing. And he finds that something is missing. So his company is vain. He's got all the stress of growth. The more his business grows, the more he got busy managing it. And then Manu knows that Rajan was stuck. He has built a business, he has built an empire, he has grown it to a reasonable level, and now he is getting too busy managing it. So what mantra he gives to him? He says, when you started a business, you had a market alignment. You knew what product you're selling, you knew what customers would value that product, you knew how to charge it, you know how to make the right promises to the right customer. And then what happened? You hired people without telling them what we are trying to do, without telling them what kind of service we are providing, why this service is important to you, and why you should pay us. So without this understanding, when you made promises, you got into a market misalignment. Now that resulted into what? That resulted into all problems coming to your table, and you become a problem solver. Now, instead of growing the business, you are spending maximum 98% of your time solving the problems of the business. This needs to be corrected. If this needs to be corrected, now you have to think, Manu's mantra number 1, which is the right market, which is the right customer, which is the right product, who will value what I'm selling. And if I need to correct this, which are the customers I should look at, and which are the customers I should continue, and which are the customers I should not work with. Very, very clear what I am delivering and what the customer is going to get, and how he will pay me extra for the services that I'm going to give. So this is the rule number 1, realign the market. Then it is, he asks a question. Manu asks a question to a Rajan. Rajan, are you a businessman or a self-employed person? Now, any businessman, if you ask him a question, are you a businessman or a self-employed person, he would always say, I'm a businessman. But Rajan is a little confused because Manu is a friend, a very dear friend, and he's asking a question, so he does not want to offend him. He said, what do you mean by this? He said, let me explain it to you. The rule is very simple. What are you investing in your business? Your time, your money, or both? Rajan says, when I started a business, I had no money, so obviously I was investing my time. And as I grew the business, I had money. But since I have already started investing the money, I also invested my time. So if you see, actually, right now, I am investing my time as well as my money in the business, and that is why my stakes are very high. Second question, can you afford to exit the business? Just now Charles was saying that you need to exit for the investor, but can you afford as a businessman to exit your business? And the answer is no. If you cannot afford to exit the business, that means the business is revolving around you. If you don't come to office for next 10, 15 days, everything will go for a toss. And that is a very dangerous situation. Third thing is, do you think you have grown with the business? Certainly, he says that I have learned a lot of things. But if you see personally, I have not grown with the business. I am doing the same old things again and again, and which is keeping me occupied. So if you see, I have not grown with the business the way you are asking me. So hence Manu explains to him that you are not a businessman. You are a self-employed person who has invested his time and money in the business and who is running around to make the show run so you can earn money. So the business is totally dependent on you. Now what do you need to do? So if you see the caricature, the business is growing, Rajan is climbing the ladder of growth, but the entire pressure is on him. So the simple question is, when you have people working for you, why are you so busy and under stress? Why there is a sudden incompetence that you experience in your people? Most of us experience this. Most of us feel that suddenly our good people who used to give results have stopped giving results because we have promoted them. And this is a sudden thing that hits us. So the real explanation to this is that our people, when we started, were good, and they are still good today. They are hardworking. And their success formula is something that has given them success in their work. But the new role demands something which is very different. Their way of doing things has to change, which they don't change. And in the new positions, they are working in the old way of doing things, and that is not matching. That is why the results are not coming. So either you have to acquire new skills or recruit new people. You have to train your people and understand what the new job requires, and they should use those kind of skills, or you have to recruit new people. Delegate activities. He says you delegate activities, which requires what? Which requires specialized knowledge, which requires analytical judgment. But don't delegate something which requires instinctive judgment, because that is your skill. That is the owner's skill. That is where your business is doing good, and that you should not delegate. Decisions. Make a process of how to make decision and who will make it. Then only you can delegate, because that is something which is very, very important. We want people to take control, but we don't want them to take decision, or we want them to take decisions, but we don't tell them how to take decisions. What is accepted criteria of taking decisions and what needs to be done for decision taking. So the second mantra Manu says is, look at your management and build capabilities in your management, so you are in a position to run and grow this business, and the business will grow without you for day-to-day routine activities. So that is the second mantra that he gives, build management. Third thing, I think this is something which everybody of us experience. In the initial stages when the business is started, Rajan says that as his sales increased, his profits automatically increased. And I think all of us know the answer, because our overheads are less. This is something which is possible. And our indicator of success, the key performance indicator is, sale kitna kiya bhai? How the sale has increased. We are only tracking one number, that is sales. And if sales increase, we are taking it for granted that our profits are going to increase automatically because our costs are low. But as business grows, there's a new equation that comes. Sales increase does not equal to profit increase. Now this is something new. We have never thought of this. We are working very hard. We are getting more and more sales. We are running behind getting the orders and also fulfilling the orders day in, day out for 8 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours. And still we are not getting profit. What is the problem? And still our indicator for business performance is sales, which should not be. We have to have a different indicator to understand why we are not getting the profit. So Manu explains to Rajan that if you know, costs behave very differently. And there are 4 types of cost. There is a productive cost, there is a supportive cost. What is productive cost? Productive cost is something which is spent on delivering the service or making the goods or making the products that you want. That is something which is productive cost. What is supporting cost? Supporting cost is your accounts, supporting cost is your administration, supporting cost is your HR, supporting cost can be your housekeeping, IT, everything is supportive, which is required to run the show. You cannot do without it. Third is a policing cost. This is supervision, excessive supervision, controls, charts, this is required, but to what level that we have to decide. And fourth is waste. If you see, cost behaves very differently, and in the initial stages, he explains to Rajan that productive cost is the only thing where value is getting added and is the only thing for which your customer is paying you money. And in the initial stages, this is what it looked like. Almost 80% was productive cost and 20% was all three other costs. But as you grew, you had made investment, you have taken people, this equation changed from here to here. Now that is eating up your profit. And that is putting pressure on your profit. And although you are doing more sales, you are unable to get the profit that you want. Earlier, many of the businesses that we meet, many of the clients that we meet, earlier their business is earning something like 12%, but now they are earning something like 3%, 4%, something of that sort. What is the reason? This is a simple reason, that they have cost and overhead costs, which are supportive, policing and waste, have gone up drastically and which is not taken care of. So he says, what do you need to do? Understand first thing, profit is not only surplus over expenses, but also investment for future growth. All of us make a simple mistake. We think that profit is only surplus over expenses. But our profit does not become sustainable because we don't see it as an investment for future growth. And this needs to be corrected. Also, if you want to grow business, Manu tells Rajan that scale requires investment before revenue. So if you want to grow, the problem is that revenue will come later. First you have to invest. And if you have to invest, you have to understand what is the kind of investment that you need to do so you can get the revenue that you want. Now here the example which I want to give is that if I have 2 offices and then I start expanding, 2 offices are something which is manageable for me because I can shift resources here and there. It is in the same city. If I have multi-locational offices, if I have to increase it from 2 to 8, problem is that I need to have staff. I need to have certain additional departments. And then maybe 8 is not the right number, but maybe 15 will be the right number, which will make this additional cost sustainable. Most of the time we don't understand what is that additional number that we need to work on. We just go on investing, looking at the sale and looking at the requirement, that number of offices that we need to open up. But the problem is that we don't understand what is the scale that we want to have to understand where the profit zone is. We generally don't understand where the profit zone is. And generally, if you see, from 2 to 8 might be a loss zone, but from 2 to 13 or 15 can be a profit zone because your overheads can get easily absorbed with that number. So you need to think of what kind of growth that you need to do. So his third mantra is that you understand your business model. What you are doing today and what you will need tomorrow, your business model is going to change. And if you don't understand that business model, then you will make the mistake of growing at such a number which will be an unprofitable number, or it will be eat your money. So that is something that you need to understand. So third thing is understand the model. Fourth, very important thing again. We all of us plan. But when we plan, most of the time we underestimate our money requirements. He tells to Rajan that you must be doing a lot of planning, what kind of sales you want, what kind of money that you want to spend. But most of the time we don't plan it in a way that we know what are the money requirement do I need to run this business smoothly. Cash flow is the something which is most neglected area in most of the SME businesses which I have seen. So he says you have to look into it. And what is the growth formula that you need to look at? Very simple, LPG. If you understand what is LPG, you will never forget what is LPG. Growth happens only when the sequence is liquidity, profitability and growth. I think people can vouch for it, but this is the only sequence that works when you are growing. If you try to change this, it does not work. If you don't have liquidity and if you try to grow, you will come in trouble. You can be profitable, but still you will have to close down your business because of low liquidity position that you have. So this LPG formula during growth is very, very important. You have to first provide for the liquidity, then you can look for profitability, and finally for growth. If that is then, because deficiency of vitamin M diverts your attention. Diverts your attention from what? Diverts your attention from market, diverts your attention from management issues, and diverts your attention from the model that you want to work on. All these things are very, very important when you are growing. But if you have money problem of liquidity, if you are unable to run your business smoothly, then you will not do justice to your business. So you have to provide